Let's talk about Biden urging the Congress to pass the border security foreign aid bill amid GOP opposition.
We move forward to the Senate floor. Why? A simple reason. Donald Trump. Because Donald Trump thinks it's bad for him politically. Therefore, he doesn't, even though it helps the country, he's not for it.
This one thing that I have to remind people here, by the way, is that this framing not only is bad because it is antithetical to the things that you pushed for when you were running against Donald Trump, and it's also bad because you're never going to win. Like I said, this is the John Kerry phenomena. When John Kerry is propped up against GWB, okay, the Democratic Party said, well, this is a decorated, celebrated veteran. He was in Vietnam. This guy is the best, okay? This guy's a Vietnam veteran. What did GWB do? George W. Bush didn't fight. He didn't serve. Right? All he was doing was serving margaritas, getting DUIs. And what happened to John Kerry? The Republicans turned around and were like, yeah, dog, John Kerry is gay as hell. He's not a real patriot. GWB is the real patriot. You can never out Pizza the Hut, and you can never out patriot the Republicans. That's it. They own patriotism and what they fucking believe patriotism actually is. Patriotism isn't actually about serving in the military either. So stop with this nonsensical bullshit. But the Democrats never learned that lesson. They kept pushing it. They still do it. They did it with Amy McGrath in Kentucky. It's just crazy. You will never win on the border issues. You need to message against it. You need to tell people the truth. And the fact that the Democratic Party had no response to all of this border crisis, manufactured crises at the border for 4 fucking years is so frustrating. We are actively making everyone around us dumber. We are making America's dumber and dumber and dumber. Biden wouldn't be pushing the border if it wasn't for needing Ukraine aid. Okay, here's the thing. You want to give Ukrainians weapons, okay, and you want to fund that through Congress? Fine. Then say you're going to do that. That's what you want to do. Try to advocate on those conditions. Try to make it punishing for the Republicans not to vote for Ukraine, but you can't do that because you know deep down inside that Americans don't really give a shit about Ukraine. We've moved on from it, right? Same with the Israel funding bill. If there was a genuine counter to giving $14 billion of weapons to Israel, okay, and if it wasn't going to be bipartisan regardless, then Americans would be like, okay, I don't give a shit. I don't want to give Israel $14 billion. Who fucking cares? Okay, deep down inside, we are selfish people. And that selfishness could be a good thing sometimes, okay? Like giving money to Israel. But he's not doing that. He's not doing that at all. He's not separating the issues. He's not saying well, here's what it is, Jack. We got to give Ukraine more money and more guns. They got to defend themselves. Republicans for years set up this agenda by basically saying immigration is a national security problem. It's not. Okay, that is not a correct way to frame the immigration problem. It is an economic issue, right? And it's only an economic issue because of a lack of processing and a lack of documentation, not because these guys are nefariously coming in to steal American jobs. Okay? The solution to that problem, if there is even a problem there, is to allow them to be documented so they can also advocate for their wages, their fair wages, alongside the rest of the documented labor pool. Okay? Here's the thing. Regardless of all of that, if your goal here is to fund Ukraine, then fucking say that. You don't have to take on right-wing framing on immigration to simultaneously push a funding package through that will send money to Ukraine. If the issue is that serious, if the issue is that severe and you believe Americans do care about giving Ukraine money, make that argument. Make that argument separately. What the fuck are we doing here? When you capitulate and concede to the right-wing framing on the issue, the framing that Marjorie Taylor Greene was making, the argument that Marjorie Taylor Greene was making 2 years ago, that we laughed at, Democrats are making now. The idea that why are we caring about the Ukrainian borders when we don't care about the Mexican border? That was an argument that Steve Bannon was cooking up. That was an argument that Marjorie Taylor Greene was cooking up. And now that argument is being repeated by Joseph Robinette motherfucking Brandon. Are you insane? That is so crazy. That's so dumb. Democrats went from vote for me for harm reduction on immigration to actually vote for me because I want to be the one killing the immigrants. Where's the harm reduction? Separate the bills. If you want to ride for Ukraine, separate the bills. Don't tie it to fucking border policy, and definitely don't adopt a right-wing framing on border policy that your enemies pushed for. You fucking idiot. The right will always defeat you. All you do when you take on their talking points is normalize the position that there really is a problem at the border when there isn't one. The problem at the border comes from the fact that we don't want to process these people when we should be. That's it.
He'd rather weaponize this issue than actually solve it. So for the last 24 hours, he's done nothing, I'm told, but reach out to Republicans in the House and the Senate and threaten them.
Like, this is such a stupid way to fucking argue. This is literally like Redditor brain shit. It's like a gotcha. We got him. The Republicans, turns out, doesn't care about actually funding the border. It's literally the same. It's the same mentality behind going, no, no, no. We are the ones who really want to fund the police, not the Republicans. Like, the Democratic Party looked at an entire year of protests, Black Lives Matter protests, and said, here's our messaging strategy. We want to fund the police, not the Republicans. The Republicans own the police, okay? They do. Adopting right-wing framing on these issues is never going to cause you to win. It's only making your side feel like there is a real problem. You have to counter message against it. Republicans are so good at counter messaging that they make up issues where no such issue exists. They do a great job. They fucking create like a phenomena. They're like, ooh, trans people, scary. Watch out. They cause their fucking fan base to believe that trans people are like actually, trans species now. And the kids are pissing in kitty litter in schools. And then even if there isn't enough momentum on that front, even if the people don't care about it enough to like actually make that their single issue voting, they still push for legislation at the state legislature because they know how to win. They know how to get their agenda across. And then Democrats a couple of years later turn around and go, yeah, you know what? We do have an issue with these trans kids. Okay, we got to fucking fix that. Like, it makes no sense. It feels like we're voting for the Democratic Party so that they could push the exact same message that they were ostensibly against the prior election cycle. What are we doing? Yeah, vote for the Democrats. They will adopt the framing on central issues that they're supposed to be against 4 years after the Republican Party. That's great, man. Thank you. I genuinely think this stuff is starting to shift public opinion. So many apolitical people I know are now asking, why can Congress only pass bills that give money to foreign nations for war? Why isn't there any money for stuff we want? That's an ongoing thing. What? Hasan, Texas is succeeding in displacing immigrants to other states. MA is overfilled with immigrants. We need to do something down there. Anything is better than nothing. I know you rail against the Dems party, but doing something is a popular action. Failing to act is also bad. You're so wrong on this. I never said do nothing. Okay? I have talked about this quite a bit, as a matter of fact. The problem is that, as you also correctly pointed out, Texas is funneling immigrants into other states without giving them a go-ahead, without telling them ahead of time that they're going to do that. I don't believe that Massachusetts is overrun with immigrants, by the way. That part is ridiculous. You have to arrest Greg Abbott immediately for trafficking migrants across state lines. That's number one. Number two, you have to give additional federal funds to these states to help with the overflow. That's it. I can't believe you're looking at a system, you're looking at a situation where someone is like very openly trying to fuck up the process and use real human beings as a political pawn with like actual human trafficking, like people being shipped off to other states like they're parcels. And you think the real issue is that, we're not stopping immigration. You've already conceded. You might as well vote for Greg Abbott. You might as well be a Greg Abbott defender at that point. Could it be argued that the Dems leaning into it because their constituents already believe it, that there's a problem at the border? It's harder to deprogram them than it is to lean into it? Brother, you know that the Republicans are going to push for immigration. Do you think there's a new caravan every 2 years during the midterms or during every election cycle? No, when they run out of other shit, they go back to the hits. That's it. They're playing the hits. So when you know that, work against it. What kind of fucking loser shit is this? We know that they're going to push for immigration being an issue. We knew that they were going to push for crime being an issue in big cities. All of that was a lie. 90% of my job as a political commentator in the United States of America is basically yelling at a fucking brick wall. I have to take into account the psychopathic fantasies of people who are basically hallucinating because the television man is telling them that there is a real issue here. It's fucking crazy. The solution is to stop it. Okay? The solution is to stop it. To stop Greg Abbott from being able to ship migrants like they're fucking cargo without informing the facilities or the people in the other states. And anyone that doesn't see that as the major problem here is losing sight of the reality. You put the cart before the horse, you jumped a couple steps, and you are now looking at people becoming more reactionary as a consequence of what they're seeing in the fucking television. It's crazy, guys. The fact that that kind of shit goes unpunished also is completely unacceptable. You might as well be supporting it yourself at that point.
And try to intimidate them to vote against this proposal. And it looks like they're caving. Frankly, they owe it to the American people to show some spine and do what they know to be right. So I want to tell the American people what's in this bill and why everyone, from the Wall Street Journal to the Border Patrol to the Chamber of Commerce, the United States Chamber of Commerce, support this bill. Because it's going to make the country safer, make the border more secure, treat people more humanely and fairly, and make legal immigration more efficient and consistent with the values of our nation and our international treaty obligations. It would finally provide the funding that I've repeatedly requested, most recently in October, to actually secure the border. That includes an additional 1,500 border agents and officers to secure the border, to physically secure it. In addition,
like this is almost identical with the Republican line of thinking. Okay? What do I mean by this? Governor Greg Abbott spends hundreds of millions of dollars shipping migrants to other states instead of utilizing $100 million in processing said migrants, okay? In hiring more people, in hiring interpreters, in hiring more legal aid, okay? In hiring or spending that money on shelters, okay? It's about where you put your interest. It's about how you want to deal with the issue. It's so stupid. Isn't this just JD Vance or whoever signing on a dead or alive M4A bill? It's bullshit messaging. Yes, but the difference is Medicare for all is a good thing. Right-wing framing on immigration is not a good thing. Okay? So JD Vance is not the one who is literally writing the Medicare for all bill. He's signing on it. Do you understand? There's two different reasons as to why this sucks. One, it's not like JD Vance is the one who's like, I actually love Medicare for all. I've decided that like we are the party of Medicare for all, as a matter of fact, and we are the ones who are going to push for Medicare for all. Also, Medicare for all is good, objectively. Okay? The Democratic Party writing the bill basically themselves and adopting the messaging and adopting the points that like immigration is a real problem is a dead ender. It's a complete loss for them. It's a major L for them. Not counter messaging against like Republican fear mongering on immigration year round is a major L for them. We keep ceding ground on these issues. Republicans keep winning despite having genuinely unpopular ideas.
100 cutting-edge machines to detect and stop fentanyl at the southwest border. We have that capacity. An additional 100 additional immigration judges to help reduce the year-long asylum backlog. You show up for asylum, and the judge is supposed to talk to you. It takes a year to get that discussion going. This bill would also establish new, efficient, and fair process for the government to consider an asylum claim for those arriving at the border. Today, the process can take 5 to 7 years, as you all know. They show up at the border, get a bracelet, told to come back when called, 5 to 7 years from now, in country. That's too long, and it's not rational. With the new policies in this bill, and the additional of 4,300 more asylum officers who spend hours, I might add, with each immigrant to consider their claims, whether they qualify, will be able to reduce that process to 6 months, not 5 to 7 years. This bipartisan bill will also expedite work permits so those who are here and who qualify can begin work more quickly. That's something that our governors, our mayors, and our business leaders have been asking me for and asking them for. All across the country, they've been asking.
The fentanyl crisis, is the fentanyl crisis real, and does it actually have to do with the border? It is real. And no, it doesn't have anything to do with border crossers. Okay? That is one of the dumbest things that you could ever fucking say. as a Democratic politician is it's just complete misinformation. Look at the Department of Homeland Security's own numbers. Fentanyl is trafficked across regular points of entry. Okay, that's good. Hasan, you skipping over that quick work visa? What do you mean? That is not a valid concession. When the other side of it is literally just doing everything you can, like shutting off immigration across the board at 5,000, capping it at 5,000 encounters, that's crazy. Okay? This is an incredibly militant bill. It is also built on top of real ideas that, like immigration is actually a matter of national security. That framing is so busted. I'm so sick of smug leftists hating Dems that reduce all critique of U.S. policy. America bad when shit is clearly not good. This border shit is not good. What kind of mental gymnastics are they engaging in at the moment to make a W for this guy? Wait, what? Are you talking about me? I'm a smug leftist hating Dem that reduce all critique of U.S. policy as America bad? Is that what you're saying? Huh? Are you delusional? At that point, I just don't understand it. If you're saying that like this is smug leftist hating Democratic or leftist hating Dems. Oh, I got it. I misunderstood what you were saying. No. You're saying that leftist hating Democrats keep saying like this is good. Okay. I thought you said the leftists that hate the Democratic Party. Anyway, do you think the ruling class wants people to become more reactionary on immigration, knowing the future border crisis coming with global warming intensifying? I'm sure that's part of it. The bill also requires that single adults remain in camps, which they are spending to double in size. There's also $480 million in new funding for Trump's wall. This is a far-right bill. 1,000%. Okay, here. 1, mandatory closure of the U.S. border based on trigger numbers or quotas. The bill creates a new statutory authority for the Department of Homeland Security to close the border to people seeking asylum after certain trigger numbers have been met. It's 5,000 encounters. If over the course of 7 days, the cumulative number of people arriving at the border or between ports, or regardless of whether they're actually processed for asylum, reaches 4,000, the authority is discretionary. When it reaches 5,000, or a single day's encounter exceeds 8,500, the authority is mandatory. As a mandatory shutdown. Can you imagine? When the authorities trigger, DHS is required to turn away or expel all people arriving at the border without so much as an asylum screening. These are people who are well within their legal rights to actually arrive on U.S. soil to seek asylum, and we're turning them away mandatorily, like making it the law. Okay? The provision means that a person's access to asylum in the United States depends on luck of the draw. No due process. Whether that they happen to arrive at the border during a period of closure, and if so, whether they happen to be able to get to a port before 1,400 other individuals, a quota-based asylum lottery violates the United States compliance with its obligations under the Refugee Convention and would mean regularly sending people with strong asylum claims directly back to their persecutors. Okay? A similar policy known as metering was found unconstitutional by a federal judge under Trump. That's the thing. Trump tried to do this. It's literally unconstitutional. Not that it fucking matters. On the ground, this expulsion authority will mimic what we saw during the Trump administration with the enactment of Title 42, which was the CDC provision, by the way. Like that it was a health risk to let these dirty migrants in, you know what I mean, over the border. Because they're bringing in COVID. Like we gave a shit about COVID. The only time we ever gave a shit about COVID was so that we could shut down the border. It's crazy. Under Title 42, human rights monitors track more than 13,480 reports of murder, kidnapping, rape, torture, and other violent attacks against people blocked in or expelled to Mexico. The proposed legislative change would fuel and incentivize organized crime on the border, creating more chaos and confusion, not less. Okay? Yeah. But this is Biden getting completely rolled. This is why we didn't want Biden to be president. He's always getting rolled by the right wing. He's not getting rolled by the right wing. He's deliberately rolling to the right wing. That's the thing. That's the problem. I don't think it's like, oh, he's just a bad negotiator. I covered this. This was also heavily featured in Ryan Grimm's early book, We Got People. So for those of you who are interested in that or want to know more about that, this was a very famous deal where Biden sidestepped Harry Reid. Well, this is a newer version of the debt ceiling negotiation with Kevin McCarthy. But under the Obama administration, Biden sidestepped Harry Reid. It's a long story. I don't want to get into it. Fuck, I have too much information in my brain on this stuff. Okay, let's continue. New fast-track process for asylum processing at the border under surveillance with no judicial review. What the bill does is it creates an entirely new asylum screening process called protection determination for people arriving at the border who are not subject to expulsion. This new process would be concluded entirely by officers within U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services with no judicial review whatsoever. People denied asylum under this process could be denied asylum and deported in under 90 days without any right to request review by a federal judge or even an immigration administrative law judge. Okay? And also, they would be placed under the protection determination program, would be under heavy surveillance, either in the form of a GPS ankle monitor or through electronic monitoring. Remember, 95% of people that are asylum seekers go to and attend their court date. 95%. It's vile. We're just like marking people. It's crazy. The new process will render due process illusory for most people seeking asylum. Just eviscerates due process. No more judge. No more situation where like you have a reasonable person giving you what you are constitutionally afforded, okay, in the form of due process, and also what international human rights law dictates, which is that you have a right to seek asylum in the United States, okay? You have a right. It is not only moral, and it is immoral for us to deny people the right to seek asylum inside of our borders. It is also illegal. But guess what, dude? Private prisons that are going to have to take care of the overfill, those guys are going to make out like bandits. We're going to have to pay them. We're going to have to give them a lot of money, okay? We're going to have to hire private contractors, new ankle monitors. Like, think about all the money that gets circulated around in that process. Yeah, GEO Group and Civic Group stocks going high. The complexity of immigration law, punishing timelines and obstacles caused by electronic surveillance will make it extremely difficult for people to find lawyers or get the information they need to fully articulate their claims. Indeed, for people, DHS's current non-detained expedited removal pilot, fewer than 3 in 100 people actually have legal representation. Further, the judicial review stripping provisions of this bill will mean that many are wrongfully deported because of a bad decision-making at the agency level that cannot be corrected. No legal recourse whatsoever. This program also envisions a dramatic expansion of immigration and customs enforcement surveillance and monitoring program, GPS ankle monitors. Number 3, heightened standards and new bars to eligibility at threshold asylum seeking. The bill envisions nearly all people arriving at the U.S.-Mexico border to seek asylum being placed into expedited processing under either the new processes described above or with the existing expedited removal process. Under either system, a threshold asylum screening determines whether a person is able to present their full asylum claim or to an adjudicator. This bill heightens the standard of review in all threshold screenings, including the existing credible fear interviews used in expedited removal and threshold screening in the new process described above, known as protection determination. The new standard will require people to show a reasonable possibility they could establish eligibility for asylum rather than a significant possibility, which is the standard in current law. So they're upping the standards. The bill heightening the credible fear standard will mean that many of those who are in the most desperate need of protection will be unable to access asylum, like rape, murder, domestic violence is a big one here, right? There is a femicide occurring in Mexico. which was one of the safe harbor First Nations under the Trump administration's policies that dictated that if you actually go from Guatemala to Mexico, for example, you have to stay there because technically you didn't go to the first immediate country that wasn't your own, right? Now, the irony itself is that there are people in Mexico that are also fucking escaping Mexico to come to America. So how the fuck are you going to turn around and make Mexico a safe harbor if it's not a safe harbor for Mexicans? Crazy. Indigenous peoples, LGBT people. Oh, here, the Biden administration's asylum ban, which already imposed the reasonable possibility for most credible fear screenings, has already tripled negative findings and returned refugees to harm. Indigenous peoples, LGBT people, and people with complex asylum claims, such as survivors of gender-based violence, will be rushed through with fear screenings without the time and support they need to understand how to articulate the legal basis for their claims. The vast majority of asylum seekers are unrepresented when they undergo their credible fear screenings due to the rapid nature of these screenings and their frequent occurrence in ICE or CBP custody. Under these conditions, asylum seekers have been unable to retain their attorneys and deported to danger. Number 4, entrenched criminalization of migration through increased detention, prosecutions, and border wall funding. That's the other part of this. People talk about the fucking coyotes. People talk about the drugs being funneled over the border. The issue is not having a safe, legal, and efficient process to rapidly process incoming migrants that are seeking asylum legally. When you don't give this opportunity to people, they look for alternative measures, alternative means. Because if you're being fucking hunted, let's say, or if you're a victim of domestic violence and you have nowhere to go, and you want to escape into America, and you know that the American government is going to deport your ass back to fucking Mexico, then you're going to do everything you can to scrounge up every fucking peso you can and go into the United States of America by other means that are extremely dangerous, as a matter of fact. Okay? That's how you find yourself dead inside of a fucking inside of a container in the back of a goddamn 18-wheeler with 42 other migrants, like it happens in Texas all the fucking time. The way to reduce the number of fatalities in border crossings that die on the Rio Grande or die when trying to cross some of the worst treks in that border, okay, that are incredibly gruesome, the conditions are awful in the desert, is not by making booby traps for the children in the Rio Grande. It's by opening up the processes so that they can come through with legal measures. Okay? All this does is create a bigger industry for those who want to. All you're doing is incentivizing people to come through illegal and illicit measures. You're giving money to the cartels. If you're worried about the cartels, this is the greatest way to help them. Okay, that's it. Something to also consider here. The bill provides $3.2 billion for immigration detention, historically high levels of detention funding that surpassed the immigration detention budget during the years of the Trump administration, by the way. Okay? Remember that. The Trump administration, more than the Trump administration's budget. Things that the Democratic Party railed against when Trump was doing it, now they have adopted and are championing themselves and trying to push this bill. The Democratic Party is trying to push this bill. If only the Republican Party ate that bait and legitimately were like, yeah, actually, we are going to pass this bill. You think this is good? You think this would be overall a productive thing for the Democrats to push for? You think any singular fucking Republican would turn around and be like, well, they did push a really comprehensive immigration reform, so I'm going to vote for the pedophile vampires who are socialist and want Mexicans to come fuck my daughter. You think that guy is going to turn around and be like, you know what, actually, I am going to vote for Joe Biden, even though he's a demented pedophile vampire? No. All you did in this situation is make the border crisis worse, genuinely a fucking crisis. You didn't want a single fucking vote, and you normalized the position in your own audience, in your own side of the fucking bargain. That now Democrats are like, you know what? Actually, Mexicans are rapists, as a matter of fact. Mexicans are trying to come and fuck my daughter. So maybe we should do something about it. Good job. All this does is push the Overton window further to the right. This is the ratcheting effect, even though it's worse than the ratchet effect. Because in the ratchet effect, it's at least the Republican Party that is like pulling the country further and further right. And then the Democrats are basically stamping their seal of approval without scaling it back in the leftward progressive direction. In this circumstance, it's worse than the ratchet effect because you're pulling the fucking country towards the right too. You're pulling the country in a reactionary fascist direction. Now your MSNBC watching parents can listen to Al Sharpton talk about how there's an invasion happening on the southern border, which he said yesterday. We watched it yesterday. Now your MSNBC watching libbed up parents can also feel in the same way that the Fox News watching parents feel about scary immigrants coming over the border to rape your daughters or whatever the fuck. It's awesome. Thank God. And it's like if you normalize that position inside of your own party, if you normalize that position through your own organs of propaganda, like MSNBC, then why shouldn't they inevitably vote for the Republicans, dumbass? If I'm watching MSNBC and the MSNBC is repeating the exact same thing that Fox News is repeating about fucking immigration being a genuine problem, the only thing I'm seeing is Biden is fucking weak. Biden is old. He also admits that immigration is a problem, but he can't even fucking put forward a deal that the Republicans will agree on. But you know who I think will actually do whatever it takes to purify the blood pool of this nation that is being polluted by Mexicans and Guatemalans? Donald Trump. That's it. Why? Why would I vote for the old man who can't purify the blood pool, who actually won't do anything about the great replacement that is occurring, that white people no longer are the dominant force? Now I'm believing that white people are the dominant force. Now I'm believing that immigration is a problem. Now I'm believing that Mexicans are rapists and they're invading. And if I personally believe that, then Donald Trump is my guy. So why is the MSNBC people not recognizing that? Thank you for proving my point for me. Agenda 2030, bro. Yeah, exactly. This is it. The guy who is so brain broken literally thinks I'm in agreement with him because I just repeated what the Democratic Party is saying. Do you understand? We got the most mentally ill motherfuckers. If you are wondering how QAnon and all this other stuff like blows up so hard in America, why is American politics so fundamentally flawed, so brain broken? This is a part of it. Okay? That's it. The bill provides $6.8 billion to Customs and Border Protection and $7.6 billion to Immigration and Customs Enforcement. Again, historically high amounts that are intended for surveillance, programming, infrastructure creation, and detention and deportation management with few guardrails. The bill provides $210 million for incarcerated detention and transport of people facing federal criminal prosecutions for migration-related offenses, which is likely to mean increased use of prosecutions for people who attempt to enter the U.S. outside of a port of entry. The bill further entrenches a carceral approach to the humanitarian challenge of processing people seeking asylum at the border. People should never be punished for seeking safety, yet that's exactly what immigration detention does. Immigration detention is rife with sexual, physical, and verbal abuse, punitive use of solitary confinement, denials of basic necessities and medical neglect, even slavery. Remember, that's another wonderful outlet for us. Immigration detention separates families, produces less fair outcomes, undermining the due process rights for people seeking asylum and their ability to fully pursue their claim. The bill also lines the pocket of private prison CEOs who lobby mightily day in and day out for exactly the type of provisions found in this bill. But it doesn't end there. The bill also funds the border wall construction. Dude, I had a flat tire last week, and the truck driver who towed my car had me ride with him the entire trip, and all he did was talk about Agenda 2030, and I was trying so hard not to laugh, I ran into an IRL hogger. I love that shit. I love experiencing hogs in the real world. Okay? I do. I think it's awesome. It's just that when we're having a conversation about, like, with the big boys, okay? When we're having a conversation, like, with adults and what adults should be doing, and the Democratic Party is supposed to be the adults in the room, we cannot be capitulating to the hogs, okay? Democrats are pushing for a Agenda 2030 bill. The bill also funds, if you don't agree, you're wrong. You're either with us or against us. Democracy in action. I knew it. You're either with us or against us. Very extreme. Wait, what? Brother, I am against the Democratic Party. I don't know if you understand this or not, but I am against the Democratic Party. I think a lot of you have very binary thinking when it comes to American politics. Okay? Can't Dems win this by writing a border bill without the foreign money part? Then there's no excuse not to pass it. Brother, I don't want to pass it. No, and they will not be able to pass this. They should have never written this bill to begin with. This is crazy. What are you talking about? It's a bad bill. This bill is bad policy and really bad politics. It's crazy to me. Like, this bill looks like it was written by a Republican because it was written by a Republican. The only difference is Democrats are now saying we actually champion this far-right white nativist immigration agenda. That is insane. I feel like I'm losing my mind. People say Democrat, you got to vote Democrat. You got to vote Democrat for harm reduction. And then the harm reduction is just the Democrats doing the harm themselves. That's not harm reduction. This is so stupid. Like, as long as we got like a rainbow flag on the side of the Customs and Border Patrol units, that it's fine, that the system is perfectly fine. We're just doing it, but in a gay way. Is that what it is? Yay, Democrats. We'll drop bombs on you, but we'll do it in a gay way. Homofascism. The fuck? The irony, of course, is that they don't even defend gay people, okay? Republicans are actively moving in that direction, too, with no recourse from the Democratic Party, with no defense from the Democratic Party. At a certain point, it's not even homofascism. It's just fascism. It's not even gay-friendly fascism. Before you know it, it's going to be, of course, as is the way how fascist movements are designed, anti-gay fascism. I'll give you an example on abortion so you have a better understanding of this. It's like if the Democratic Party were to say, you know what, the right-wing framing on abortion is correct. Abortion is murder, which is why we should limit abortion. So here, we're going to pass a bill that limit abortions ourselves. Oh, wow, the Republicans are not agreeing with me on limiting abortions. They must be so hypocritical. We are the party who now thinks abortion is murder. You're like, if that happens, which, by the way, it did. That's what Hillary Clinton used to kind of do, for the record, kind of allude to. If that were to happen, you'd be like, what the fuck are you doing? I got into an argument about this with my lived-up parents, and they kept telling me how when Trump was doing the things he did at the border, it was different because there was an actual crisis. Exactly. because the actual crisis was being presented by Fox News. And when Fox News says it, it must be fake. But when MSNBC says it, they've never lied. They would have no reason to lie. They would have no reason to defend Joe Biden unconditionally, right? So on that front, it's actually real. There is a real crisis now because the TV man said so. The TV man that I agree with said so. Same with Biden. What is the same with Biden? Yeah. The border wall and barrier construction wreaks destruction and causes irreparable harm to the borderlands and millions who call the border region home. Border wall construction during the Trump administration resulted in the bulldozing of Native American burial sites, the dynamiting of pristine mountain wilderness, and unjust seizures of private ranches and farmlands. Okay, hold on. It includes literally all the border wall funding that they were demanding. Are you fucking kidding me right now? Yes, dude. Yes. The funniest part is every Democratic Party voter turns into like an armchair quarterback Democratic Party consultant because that's the way that MSNBC likes it, right? They don't think about it on the boundaries of this issue. They think about it like, well, this will probably be good for independents to come and vote for the Democratic Party. And it's like, you're a fucking idiot. No, it doesn't. Okay? Like, you have to sit there and think, is this correct? Do I think that this is a good bill? Do I like what's in the bill? Do I like the impact of this bill? That's the first thing you should be saying, because that's the reason why you voted for the Democrats. And then the second impact should be, are Republicans going to look at this and go, wow, this is a good bill for them? Now I actually will vote for the Democratic Party. No? Okay, then why the fuck are you pushing for it? And also on top of that, why the fuck are you advocating for right-wing framings on issues? Thank you, Hasan, for shitting on the Dems this much. Right-wingers are low-hanging fruit, so this discourse is pretty important in my mind. I'm shitting on the Democrats because they are doing right-wing shit. If they weren't, like when Joe Biden beefed up the NLRB, I gave him his fucking roses. Okay? I'm fair. That's the problem. I'm fair and honest to a fucking fault. That's why people get so mad. They're like, what? This guy's not playing team sports. He's not telling me what is what. He's not telling me that that Biden is actually doing the best expert 5D chess move here. Well, you can get that from MSNBC if you want. But before you know it, you are also going to be incredibly right-wing because you're now sucking in this framing for no reason. It's not correct. It's incorrect. This bill isn't going to pass. It's not. Couldn't this just be a stunt so the Dems can point the finger at Republicans for not taking action? If that is the case, that is the most idiotic way that you could do this, okay? That is so unimaginably stupid. Why? Why is that stupid? Because you just conceded that there is a major problem. There's a crisis at the border. What do you not understand about this? Adopting the right-wing framing on immigration, knowing full well that the right already is going to run on immigration no matter what, is the most idiotic thing you could push for. Okay? It's the dumbest thing you can push for. And I've been saying this about all matter of Democratic Party policies in perpetuity, and it seems like nobody fucking hears it. Here, Osita says, friend of the show, I'm sorry, but the wait, so Republicans never really cared about border security stuff is hard to take if it's in earnest, and if it's not, I wouldn't expect it to be more successfully politically than when the Dems tried. Actually, it's the Republicans who wanted to defund the police. I said this exact same thing yesterday, and I said it today as well. Oh yeah, we're the ones who want to. We're the ones who actually want to fund the police. The Republicans are the ones who want to defund the police. That's not a fucking good argument because they don't give a shit. Republicans own the police. Yes, this may represent a gargantuan concession to the right that will change the politics of immigration for years. But on the other hand, Dems got a new talking point about how Republican dysfunction. So who's to say who won here? Exactly. This is not worth it. It's the dumbest fucking way to do this. You went against all of your campaign promises about harm reduction. In an election cycle, in an election year, it blows my mind. How fucking stupid are you? It is so unimaginably dumb, dude. Just trying to outcompete Republicans on reactionary, right-wing, racist policies is a dead ender. You're always going to lose. Basically, you're saying the mechanics, the Dem leadership and MSM rule the dynamics of voters in elections are wrong. Independents won't like this, or independents don't exist. I disagree. I think Biden and the Dem leadership like this bill, to be honest. I think that this bill, in and of itself, is very beneficial for people who are incredibly right-wing on immigration, people who are going to benefit greatly from immigrant detention processes, people who are, for example, in the business of having stocks within GEO or Civic Group, like all these other companies, the private prison facilities. Those are the people who benefit from this, okay? But as far as like the Democratic Party winning anything on this, it's not even a good messaging bill is what I'm trying to say. Because you have now adopted the right-wing framing on this issue. There is no problem. Republicans invent the problem. First, it's like the psychopathic Republicans that invent the problem. Marjorie Taylor Greene and like the Breitbart, or not the Breitbart, sorry, the Steve Bannons of the world. And then 3 years later, it's the Democratic Party on an election cycle adopting that right-wing framing and saying, yeah, there is a problem actually. Here, we're the ones who are going to fix it in the right-wing, in the most right-wing way possible. And then the Republicans go, nah, actually, we're going to leave it up to Trump. We're going to use this as an election issue, as a matter of fact. And they go, see, they don't care about the border. Lol. It's like, yeah, dude, they don't care about anything. They just want to win. Who gives a fuck? If they don't care about the border, why are you trying to make that argument through this? In my opinion, Dems can win by increasing avenues for merit-based legal immigration and cutting out the foreign money part of the bill. Dude, Joe Jorgen's son. Of course, with a name like Joe Jorgen's son, I suspect you already personally are a libertarian who, wants to implement merit-based immigration, not thinking about all of the restrictions on free travel that this bill features, building a wall and all this other stuff, eminent domain to build a wall. Libertarians fucking falling short of their supposed principles every single time is awesome. Okay? My man, this bill is awful. Okay? It's an awful bill. It is a dog shit bill. It is a right-wing bill. I just described to you exactly why it is, point by point, on why this is a dog shit Republican bill that the Democrats are pushing for. The only thing that's democratic about this is that it's the Democrats pushing for it. That's it. Nothing else says this bill is progressive or even good for migration. That's it. Why are Dems pushing away from proven popular points with their voters? Because they have bad, I think they just have bad oversight. They have bad wonks. They have bad analysts that are telling them wrong things. I didn't even get to the foreign policy part of the bill, by the way. After suspending UNRWA funding, U.S. aims to send aid to other agencies operating in Gaza. The bill also cuts UNRWA funding entirely. The foreign policy side of the bill dictates that they fucking give $17 billion to Israel so they can keep, accelerating their baby murder. That's the real reason why the Democrats are pushing for it, by the way.